Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Sakyamuni, the 194th verses from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel Thien Thai in the USA. Happy is the birth of Buddhas. Happy is the teaching of the sublime Dhamma. Happy is the unity of the Sangha. Happy is the discipline of the united ones. When we reflect deeply on these words, we are not only reading a verse. We are entering a way of seeing life clearly, gently, and wisely. The Buddha is pointing us toward the conditions that create true happiness, not the kind of happiness that depends on temporary gain, but the kind that remains even when everything changes. The first teaching hidden in this verse is the rare appearance of a Buddha in the world. In countless cycles of time, beings are born and pass away without ever hearing the true Dharma. The Buddha's appearance is described as rare, like a blind turtle rising once in 100 years and placing its head through a floating wooden ring. This image is not to create fear, but to awaken gratitude. When a Buddha appears, something extraordinary happens. The darkness of ignorance is interrupted. The cycle of confusion is broken open by clarity. Beings who were lost in anger, craving, and delusion suddenly receive a path that leads beyond suffering. This is why the verse begins with happiness. It is not emotional excitement. It is deep recognition of a priceless opportunity. The second teaching is the joy of the sublime Dhamma. The Dhamma is not merely spoken words or written scriptures. It is the living truth that reveals how suffering begins and how suffering ends. It is like a light that does not change, even when clouds pass over the sky. When the Buddha taught the Dhamma, he did not speak to impress or to control. He spoke to liberate. Every teaching was given according to the capacity of beings, like a physician giving medicine suited to each illness. Some teachings were soft and simple. Some were deep and challenging, yet all were rooted in compassion. The happiness of the Dhamma is found when a person truly understands even a small part of it. For example, when someone realizes that anger only burns the one who holds it, a seed of liberation has already been planted. When someone understands that craving never ends by feeding craving, wisdom begins to arise. These small recognitions slowly transform a life from confusion into clarity. The third teaching is the unity of the Sangha. Sangha means the community of those who practice the path together. It is not merely a group of people living in the same place. It is a spiritual family bound by shared intention, to reduce suffering, to cultivate wisdom, and to support one another on the path. Unity in the Sangha is not the absence of difference. It is the presence of understanding. In any community, there will be different personalities, different levels of wisdom, and different stages of practice. Yet when the foundation is respect and mindfulness, these differences become strength rather than division. The Buddha compared a harmonious Sangha to a bowl of water that remains clear because it is not disturbed. When minds are united, practice becomes stable. When practice is stable, realization becomes possible. But when division arises, even strong practice becomes weakened. The happiness of unity is therefore not social comfort alone. It is a spiritual condition that supports liberation. Without harmony, even deep teachings cannot be preserved for long. The fourth teaching is the discipline of the united ones. Discipline in Buddhism is not punishment. It is protection. It is the structure that supports freedom. Just as a river needs banks to flow properly, the mind needs discipline to avoid scattering into suffering. When discipline is practiced together, it becomes even more powerful. A single practitioner may struggle alone, but a community practicing discipline together creates a field of energy that supports mindfulness, patience, and awareness. Discipline includes simple acts such as mindful speech, careful action, and honest livelihood. But more deeply, it is the discipline of the mind, letting go of harmful thoughts, returning to awareness, and remembering the path again and again. In the time of the Buddha, there was once a group of monks who began to relax their discipline. At first, it seemed harmless. Small words spoken carelessly, small actions done without mindfulness. But gradually, the mind of the community became scattered. Arguments increased. Respect weakened. When the Buddha saw this, he taught not with anger, but with clarity. He reminded them that discipline is not restriction but protection. Without discipline, even good intention loses direction. With discipline, even simple intention becomes powerful practice. The monks listened and reflected. Slowly, they restored their conduct, not out of fear, but out of understanding. They saw that discipline was not separate from happiness. It was part of the happiness described in the verse. Thus, the verse is not only praise of sacred things. It is also instruction. It shows us 4 foundations of spiritual happiness: the appearance of awakened wisdom, the teaching of truth, the harmony of community, and the stability of discipline. When these 4 are present, the world becomes lighter. Not because external conditions are perfect, but because the mind is aligned with reality. When they are absent, confusion grows even if external conditions seem comfortable. This is why the Buddha pointed repeatedly toward inner cultivation rather than outer gain. In daily life, we can reflect on this teaching in simple ways. When we hear or learn something wise that reduces our suffering, we can recognize it as a small encounter with the Dhamma. When we act kindly and avoid harm, we are practicing discipline. When we support others in goodness rather than division, we are supporting Sangha harmony. And when we remember to live with awareness, we are honoring the path shown by the Buddhas. In the early days of the Blessed One's community, there was a time when the Sangha was still growing and many different people came to seek the path. Some were former kings, some were merchants, some were farmers, and some were wanderers without home or identity. They all came with different habits, different speech, and different ways of thinking. Among them, there was once a period when misunderstanding arose not from hatred, but from attachment to opinion. Some monks held strongly to their interpretations of the teachings. Others held firmly to different practices they believed were correct. At first, these differences seemed small, but the untrained mind can turn small differences into large separation. As days passed, the atmosphere of harmony began to weaken. Conversations became shorter. Silence became heavier. Some monks began practicing separately, thinking their way was better. The unity that once felt natural began to feel fragile. When this situation reached the ears of the Blessed One, he did not approach with blame or urgency. Instead, he approached with calm awareness, as one who sees deeply into both suffering and its cause. The Buddha gathered the monks gently, and when they were seated, he did not immediately speak of fault. Instead, he invited them to reflect on something deeper than opinion. He asked them to remember why they had left worldly life in the first place. Was it for debate, or was it for liberation? This question alone softened many hearts. The Buddha then reminded them that attachment to views, even correct views, can become a form of bondage when it leads to pride and separation. Truth, he explained, is not strengthened by division. Truth is revealed through humility, practice, and direct realization. In that moment, a story was remembered among the monks, a teaching often shared in early tradition. It was said that in a previous time, a group of practitioners once gathered near a great forest to meditate. They had no teacher present, only the memory of teachings they had heard. At first, their practice was peaceful, but as time passed, each began to interpret silence in different ways. One believed silence meant complete withdrawal from speech. Another believed silence meant internal stillness while still engaging with kindness. A third believed silence meant strict separation from all activity. Because there was no shared understanding, small disagreements grew. One day, a senior practitioner spoke harshly to another, saying that his practice was incorrect. The other responded with equal firmness. Slowly, the group that once sat together in peace began to divide. When a wise wandering monk later visited them, he saw the condition of their minds immediately. He did not argue with their interpretations. Instead, he asked them to sit together in silence, not to prove their views, but to observe their own minds. As they sat, they began to see something simple yet profound. Their suffering did not come from different methods. It came from clinging to identity within their methods. The moment this was seen clearly, their arguments lost strength. They realized that the essence of practice was not in defending a position, but in releasing the self that clings to positions. When this story was reflected upon in the time of the Buddha, it served as a mirror for the monks. The Blessed One pointed out that even the desire to be right can become a subtle form of ego. When ego enters practice, harmony becomes difficult. When ego softens, harmony becomes natural. The Buddha then gently guided them back to the foundation of their path. He reminded them that they were like travelers crossing a vast river. Each may use a different raft, but the purpose is the same, to reach the other shore. No traveler should fight another over the design of the raft while still in the water. Upon hearing this, many monks felt their hearts become lighter. The tension that had built over time began to dissolve. Some realized they had been holding tightly to their views not out of wisdom, but out of insecurity. Others saw that they had been silently judging others without understanding their practice fully. Gradually, the community returned to harmony, not because all opinions became identical, but because understanding became deeper than opinion. From this event, the meaning of the verse becomes clearer. Happy is the birth of Buddhas. Because without awakened wisdom, beings remain trapped in cycles of misunderstanding. Happy is the teaching of the sublime Dhamma. Because without clear guidance, even sincere practitioners can become lost in their own interpretations. Happy is the unity of the Sangha. Because unity is the environment where practice becomes stable and realization becomes possible. Happy is the discipline of the united ones. Because discipline protects harmony from being broken by careless speech and unguarded mind. In daily life, this teaching is still very alive. Even outside monasteries, people experience similar situations. Families, communities, and workplaces can also fall into separation when opinions become stronger than understanding. The lesson of the Sangha is not to avoid difference, but to avoid attachment to difference. When we learn to listen more deeply than we speak and understand more than we judge, harmony naturally grows. Thus, the ancient story becomes a living reflection for the present moment. It reminds us that the path of liberation is not only about personal insight, but also about how we live together with others. Where there is understanding, there is peace. Where there is humility, there is unity. Where there is unity, the Dharma remains alive. When we bring this teaching to a close, we return to its essence, which is simplicity, clarity, and peace. The Buddha did not teach to create complexity in the mind, but to remove confusion from the mind. Every word in this verse points us back to what is stable, what is wholesome, and what leads beyond suffering. The birth of the Buddha is happiness because it is the arising of wisdom in a world covered by ignorance. The teaching of the Dhamma is happiness because it shows the way out of suffering without force or fear. The unity of the Sangha is happiness because harmony supports practice and protects understanding. The discipline of those who are united is happiness because discipline keeps the path steady and unbroken. When these four are present in life, even in small measure, the mind becomes lighter. When they are absent, confusion grows even if external conditions appear comfortable. We can reflect in our daily living. When wisdom arises in our thoughts, we recognize the presence of the Buddha's spirit. When we act with awareness and kindness, we are living the Dhamma. When we support harmony with others, we are supporting the Sangha. When we guard our actions and speech with mindfulness, we are practicing discipline. In this way, the ancient verse is not far away. It is not only found in scriptures or monasteries. It is found in the present moment of our own life, in how we think, speak, and act right now. The Buddha's teaching always returns to this simplicity. Do not cling. Do not harm. Do good. Purify the mind. When these are lived deeply, suffering gradually loses its hold, and peace becomes natural. As we conclude this reflection, we can carry one gentle understanding into our hearts. True happiness is not something we chase. It is something we cultivate through wisdom, practice, unity, and discipline. May this understanding bring peace to all who hear it. May those who are lost find direction. May those who are suffering find relief. May all beings walk gently toward liberation. Nama Amitabha bless to all. I hope to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Please click like, share, and subscribe to help me grow my YouTube channel. Thanks you for watching my video.